Axons Unleashed.
G'day ladies and gents, welcome to another cracking episode of Axons Unleashed. I always say it's cracking. It's a little bit presumptuous.
It always bloody is cracking.
Oh, that's true. I've got Lukey back in the office with me today in the studio. Ryan subbed out for you last week and did an amazing job, by the way.
I was a little under the weather, mate. I'm not sure whether it was COVID, a cold or something, but something definitely took me down. It did the ankle pick and took me down for about a week. So Ryan graciously stepped up.
That's what happens when you have a Bucks party in Sydney.
No.
Our guest today is female, for starters. Generally, we have other guys come and join us on here. And she's not from a defence background. In fact, she's a defence spouse. So she wasn't a serving member, not a veteran.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I'm really looking forward to this, mate. As I always say, in the same way you say it's cracking, I'll always say I'm looking forward to it because I am. This is going to be an opportunity to share a story that is going to be relatable to a whole bunch of people. You know, even the guys and girls that are in uniform, sometimes they don't often consider the impact of that service life and what it costs our families and those challenges that are faced by that. So it's going to be a really good opportunity for this lady to be able to share that story and provide us some of the insights into how she overcomes some of those challenges.
And one thing we can guarantee, this has got nothing to do with property.
Nothing. Zero.
This has got an element. This is going to bring another flavour to the podcast, which hasn't even been spoken about before.
Mate.
So I'm really looking forward to this. It brings me absolute huge pleasure to welcome Hayley Boswell to Axons Unleashed. Hello, Hayley. You're dialing in by Zoom.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to this as well. So your partner served in the Navy for 24 years, so I'm looking forward to understanding how that all sort of came about. But you're a lawyer, a mum, a proud partner of a Chief Petty Officer in the Royal Australian Navy. The Defence series of children's books that you have created is aimed at giving young children a tool for understanding the important work undertaken by their defence parents. I looked on your website before, it's like, my dad's in the Army, my mum's in the Navy. I'm like, this is so cool. Your business Defence Kidz, which we're going to basically showcase today, empowers defence and veteran children through education, advocacy and creating ADF-specific resources that aims to foster a deeper connection with their families, schools and community.
Hayley, you have a list of credentials as long as your arm. How do you get time to do anything in your life, mate?
It's a good question. I struggle. I struggle fitting everything in. I have a diary entry every day. I think about what I'm going to do, and I wake up during the middle of the night and remember what I've got to do the next day. Sounds familiar. It's a lot. Yeah.
Great stuff. If you don't mind, we're going to take you on the same story arc as everyone else. So I want to sort of get to know you at that sort of granular level. So where'd you grow up? What was your childhood like? Tell us all about sort of your upbringing.
Sure. So I grew up in Elizabeth in South Australia. So I still live in South Australia, best state in the country.
Agree. Fun fact, I'm a Port Pirie boy. Port Pirie boy.
How good South Australia.
I'm bloody outnumbered here. I'm starting to feel cornered.
And a lot of my aunties, uncles and cousins and all that sort of stuff are sort of in that northern suburbs of Adelaide as well.
I love it. Well, we're leading the way, but we'll get to that. So grew up in Elizabeth and went to Craigmore High School, and that's basically. My dad was in the Army from when I was really little, so that's not really well known. But he served for a couple of years and then discharged. He was a cook, and so I just grew up out in the northern suburbs. Didn't have a lot of money, just general northern suburbs life.
A very humble upbringing. Did you have any other defence links in your family, or was it dad that served a couple of years? Or was there more of a strong link?
So my dad served a couple of years, but prior to that, so my great uncle served in World War II and tragically died over there. And I've also had a few serving in World War One. So it's on researching my family, it's littered with defence families, which I didn't know until I started researching. They're everywhere.
Yeah, so have a look at you now. Who would have known that young Hayley back in the day? I grew up in the 1980s when I went to school. I'm 51 now. How old are you, Hayley? Have you turned 40 yet?
42.
Geez, that was good, wasn't it?
Oh.
81. The 80 babies.
I'm an 84 baby, mate.
I continue to be the oldest person on the podcast. But, who would have thought that young girl, woman, lady growing up back in Adelaide is now, married to a partner that served a long... Is your partner still serving?
he's out now, and we're not married. We're engaged, but I haven't had time to. I know. Yeah. Well, I haven't had time to get married yet, but so he's just discharged. So coming up 2 years, he discharged from the Navy. So he's still here. He's just transitioned into Osborne Shipping Yard. So he's in defence industry and loving it.
Amazing,
so,
fantastic.
Yeah.
And now the fact that you're just like so involved in the defence community, like you were just saying off camera before, like, you know, there's a bunch of other Facebook groups and other sort of areas out there that are always talking about how veterans and veteran spouses or anyone that works in that sort of defence space can now branch out and help others. You know, something that we're really proud of here. Like, we've got 4 veteran spouses here in the business. So we've got 6 veterans and 4 veteran spouses. So, you know, the contributions that you have all made and continue to make for us and our lives, it's just so good to see it sort of go on there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about that. How did you meet your partner then? Tell us about that.
Well, funny story. So we met at Craigmore High School.
Right.
Wow. High school, was it high school sweethearts, or did you give him the flip at the start?
She just said they met.
We met. I loved him from the minute I saw him. He came into our class, and I knew that he was the one, which is a bit soppy, but anyway, I knew he was the one from the minute I saw him. And then we were just best friends. He used to come over on the weekends. We used to watch movies together. He was just always around. And then at 17, and I still give him a hard time about this, he left me to join the Royal Australian Navy, and I was gutted beyond belief, because back then they didn't have mobile phones. There was no way to contact, so he just disappeared. One day he was there, the next day he wasn't. And then every few years I was a Foodland Manapara checkout chick, and he used to come back and come through my checkout every few years and say hi, and I would be so excited, and then I'd be gutted again because I wouldn't see him for another 2 years. So emotional trauma on my life was huge when I was growing up. And then we sort of lost touch because there was no Facebook. We couldn't keep in touch, and he just disappeared from my life again. And then it wasn't until his friend from the Navy made him join up on Facebook when it first got started that we reconnected. And I said I'd been trying to find him for ages, and I just couldn't. And then we had a bit of a chat, and he said, "Oh, funny, I'm actually relocating back to Adelaide," and I happened to be single at the time, and so I thought, this is my opportunity.
I'm going to take it.
I'm going to take this opportunity, and so we ended up meeting up at a Regurgitator concert at the Gov, mind you.
Love it.
Love it. And then it was history. We got together, and I was pregnant within 2 months. Now we've got 2 children. Yeah.
She's like, I've had all these chances where it slipped through my fingers. I ain't letting this one go.
Locked it down.
Yeah, locked it down. Got the engagement ring. Yeah.
So how long did you guys stay in Adelaide after that? Was it kind of like you were both fixed there for a while, or did you start to really get into the rock and roll of the posting cycle and that experiencing, you know, some of those challenges that present with defence life?
Well, I was in denial, so I did not understand what it meant by dating someone in our defence forces. He said to me straight up, "You know, I'm in defence. You know, I'm going to have to post." And I said, "We'll get to it when it comes to it. We'll deal with it when it happens, right?" I had no clue what I was signing up for at that point. And so when it came to, because he was based in Adelaide, so it was fine for the first couple of years, no issue. But then when it came to his first posting away, I was frantic. I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, what do you mean I'm going to leave my home in Adelaide that I've lived in for my whole life? What do you mean I'm going to have to relocate with a child? What does this look like for my family? And I was gutted. I didn't want to have to leave my family. So then we sort of, there was a few things that happened with his ex-partner. She was Royal Australian Navy, and unfortunately she was a statistic and committed suicide. So we had to stay here and deal with those issues. So that was really, really hard, especially having a newborn and having to go through a veteran suicide. It was horrendous. And support him and my family through that. So we sort of stayed here to get everybody stable again, make sure that everyone was mentally okay. So Defence allowed us to stay in location for a bit longer, which was great. So we were quite supported by his command. And then from that, he then got posted to HMAS Sydney. So he was moving to Sydney. So then we had to make the decision, do we leave or do we stay here and by this stage I'd had 2 young children. So do we take them with us and go in a motel in Sydney, or do we stay here? And we made the decision initially to stay here because my child has special needs, she has autism, so it was getting her services. So we decided to stay in location, so that made sense, so she was being supported. He went to Sydney. The plan was he was going to come back every second weekend, and so we would have family time then. But then COVID hit and he got stuck in Sydney, and so that plan went out the door pretty quickly, and all of a sudden we were stuck in Adelaide, he was stuck in Sydney. I had 2 young children, one was nearly 2, one was 4.5, and we couldn't see each other.
Yep.
So we were, doing all we could do. We were doing FaceTime. We were, he was evidently reading my books on the phone and then sending them to the children to read. So we're using all the resources we could. He was singing songs at night, things like that. But it wasn't the same. So in the end, we just said, we've got to move to Sydney. We just don't have a choice.
Yep.
It was the best decision for my family. The look on the girls' faces when they were reconnected with their dad, and his face, he was struggling being away from us, was amazing. We got put up in a hotel in Sydney. Couldn't have been worse places. It was Bond Street. Loved my life, right? Loved my life. I could go shopping with my children in the most amazing places, go for walks under the bridge. Like, I was loving my life. And it was quite funny because my family back in Adelaide were struggling with the quick move and were saying, oh, we miss you, and where are you, when are you coming home? And I was living La Vida Loca. I was like, I'll see you when I see you. I'll see you later.
I can assure you, bloody Bond Street in Sydney is a mile away from Manapara shops. That's like the opposite end of the world.
Mate, I more than you may not know, more than you know, I can relate to what you've just said about being separated, particularly through COVID. My wife was got stuck in Brazil with my son. So I wish I knew about your books at the time, and I wish I had that resource, because for us, we were doing the same thing, and it was just a case of trying to engage over Zoom and, trying to call over WhatsApp and that sort of stuff. And as much as kids will smile and give you the thumbs up sometimes, even if they do miss you, as soon as there's a phone in front of them, it's just not the same level of engagement, is it?
It's just not. And I think the singing the songs at night really helped for us, and they would sing with them. But, yeah, it's not the same. I mean, it's, the physical contacts, it's the cuddles at night, it's the singing them to sleep, and, and just the safety net around those children when when you've got a parent there. It's completely different to
It's the energy and the vibe. Like, you think pets can pick up on it?
Yeah, of course.
By geez, kids can pick up on it too.
I've got a terrible voice too, so I don't think my son would appreciate me singing him songs.
You never know.
What year is this, Hayley? Just sort of picture us here about what time. Oh, sorry, it's the COVID, the whole sort of 2021 period. Yeah.
Yeah, 2021. So it's been a few years now since we've been back, and he's now back in Adelaide, and we're more settled, and he's at Osborne Shipping Yard. So everyone is very settled now. He's transitioned successfully out of Navy. He had a very soft landing, which many people don't have. So we are very, very, very thankful that he was able to move into a position that was still surrounded by defence people and his friends. So, literally the only thing that changed for us was his uniform.
Yep.
That was a big deal for me, mind you. But for him, it was wearing fluorescent yellow and blue. Not the same shoe as wearing camos, right? It's not the same. For anybody who watches him, it's not the same feeling. So, so that was, and I guess the interesting part about his transition for me was that, and something that's not talked about, was that I transitioned as well, and my children transitioned as well. And it's not something that we really talk about, because it's usually focused on the veteran, and, we need to make sure that they're okay, because it's their job, it's their life, it's really important. But I went from being a defence spouse, a really proud, actively involved defence spouse, to still the same, but a veteran spouse. And then what does that mean for my children? You're not a defence child anymore. You're a veteran child. Yeah. What does that look like? So it was interesting. It was an interesting transition. And you don't want to bring it up being a veteran spouse, because then you feel bad for your partner, and you don't want to take away from his experience, and you want to make sure that he's okay. But at the same time, you're also transitioning.
Absolutely.
I've never heard anyone characterise it like that. It's a bloody good point.
It's absolutely true. It's I didn't consider this even remotely close enough to the level of sacrifice that my wife and my son, for that matter, had to go through. At that point, like you were just saying before, highlighting the fact that you picked your life up and moved from Adelaide, not at a moment's notice, but fairly rapidly. That's a huge pivot from your life. It's a huge pivot from your family's life. And particularly when kids come into the picture, there's a whole level of additional considerations. And of course, in your case, a lot more so. But there's a whole lot of that consideration of picking and disrupting your lives. That comes to an end. And now, did you find that when that came to an end with the approach that you took to sacrificing to move and move the kids and stuff, was it a case of you pivoting towards being able to provide yourself with an opportunity to develop, to be able to, go down career path and that sort of stuff, knowing that you were going to have having more stability?
Stability, yeah.
I think so, yeah. So I opened up a law firm when COVID happened, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to work. So I wanted something that I could do at home that I had flexibility around. But yeah, defence life, I think, by nature is transient. So we're consistently being challenged. We're consistently moving, or, thinking about when our partner is going to, go into training or not. So I had stability all of a sudden. So I could plan my weeks. I could plan my days. I mean, this year I'm going to Brisbane 3 times. I'm going to, all these different places that I haven't been able to do. I'm now finally being able to thrive because he supports me, which is, it's just a change in our roles a little bit. Like, I still support him in everything he does in defence industry, and capability is so important, and it will always come first in our family in particular. But I now have flexibility where I didn't have that before. I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, it definitely helped in defence that his command, I can't say enough great things about how fantastic they were. They were so supportive on, everything that happened throughout our journey. They supported, they made sure that they were looking after him. They were doing regular check-ins. We were very, very supported, which is fantastic. So I think stability, now I'm thriving and I'm absolutely loving it. Like, I'm just loving it.
Robbie, you said this during. Sorry, mate. You said this during my podcast with the level. I was also extremely fortunate in the level of support that I got from a number of my senior commanders. Transitioning out, it just makes such a difference. It makes a huge difference to the defence member and to their family to be able to say, you've given your service, you've given your time, and it's now the Defence Force and the Department of Veterans Affairs and the government's responsibility to support you, whatever that looks like for the individual, to support you in a way that's going to allow you and your family to transition in a very, safe, comfortable way with a soft landing.
Yeah, I've seen a real trend. I've been out for 10 years now, and I'm really proud to say all of your peers, some of which I put through Duntroon, are now in those sort of command positions and roles. So it's not like the olds and bolds of back in the day. So there's a new way of thinking that are people that have come through. And more often than not now, the coaching sessions that we do and the normal interactions we have with our clients in the Axon space, so many of them are thinking about transition, have transition, might transition, etc. But they're not as scared about it anymore because they are getting a bit more top cover and or understanding from the chain of command and the various other departments that they need to be able to engage with. I literally just had, hot off the press, came in about 24 hours ago, mid-morning, yesterday, all of my accepted conditions and offer from DVA's come through. I have had an amazing experience with DVA. I had a fantastic delegate. I didn't even have an advocate. I just put it all together myself and said, there's everything that you now know about me. And then they, did their thing, and, the permanent impairment people sort of came through quite quickly. DVA has been fantastic for me so far.
It's great to hear.
I'm just really, really glad to know that I personally experienced with you and your separation, even though there was some clunkiness with DVA there, but from a chain of command point of view, and that's the hardest bit to get people on board. We've even got, Justin, another guy who's going to come and do some OJT with us soon. His chain of command has been freaking amazing. And it's just so heartwarming to see that there's now a range of commanders that are now coming through that are just so supportive of everyone. So, bravo to everyone else out there that's sort of, wearing that cap. keep doing amazing things for your people and support them where possible. Obviously, you don't want to have the bloody wool pulled over your eyes, because there are some bloody, dodgy people out there still. But in the majority of circumstances, once you get to the truth of someone's matter, then if you're one of their commanders, do everything you can to support them, because they will either love you or fucking hate you for the rest of their life.
Yeah, and it's I think some of the changing narrative.
Shit, I just swore for the first time. Then I apologise.
I warned Hayley beforehand.
Only when I get super passionate about things.
I think
I'm a lawyer. It's my MO. Like, I feel like if I'm not swearing, it's weird. So it's completely fine. It's my norm.
Right. Let's get rid of that then.
I feel like there's a little bit of a changing narrative now where commanders, senior officers, and the organisation writ large are starting to understand that everybody becomes a veteran one day, and at that point, whether it's of a serving member's own choosing or whether it's the Defence Force's decision to separate somebody, we all become veterans, and it's not a case of I'm going to swear now. It's not a case of the veteran or the individual saying, fuck you, I'm out of here. It's a case of saying, right, I've either served my purpose for the Defence Force or the Defence Force has served its purpose for me and my family, and now it's time for us to move on. There should be no animosity there. It's, at the end of the day, we all leave. We all spend more time out of the Defence Force than we do holistically as a family in the Defence Force, so it should be done in a way that's supportive.
I definitely agree. And I think that what's interesting is the innovative way to support. So I don't know if you've seen, but the Royal Australian Navy have I'm going to do a plug here, but Royal Australian Navy have just released a family's book that supports defence and veteran families. So basically, you've got this book that shows you real basic information about what to expect in Navy and just really good information for families.
Love it.
So for people transitioning in or out, it's actually a really good tool. And I said to them the other day, this is an amazing resource. We need this in Navy, we need this in Army, and we need this in the RAF.
Yeah.
Everybody should have a specific resource that helps families and their defence in a real roundabout way that they can understand. It's a booklet. So anyway, they've just released that. It is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, because defence life is defence life, but if you talk to a Navy spouse or an Air Force spouse or an Army spouse, their experiences are way different.
Yeah.
So different.
Let's jump into where the seed was planted for you. Like, you obviously saw a gap, you already saw a problem set, and you obviously present as the kind of lady that's not just going to sit down and accept that there's a gap or a problem set. You want to take positive action to put change in place. Let's talk about where the concept or the idea came from for your books.
We're going to get real now. So
really?
I thought we already had been. I've been trying to be right. Now we're going to get really real.
This is the warm-up. That was the warm-up.
Rock and roll.
I'll start
Strap in, ladies and gents.
Here we go.
I'm just going to put my bloody seatbelt on here. Go for it.
Love it. So basically, I had my first child, and so she was about 3 months old, and it was 2:00 in the morning. I was breastfeeding her, and then I had this wave of anxiety over me thinking, how am I going to explain to my child that her dad is going to go away for periods, and explain that his role is so important, and it's a shame that he's going to miss your birthday at times, and it's a shame that he's going to miss your sports day, but he really needs to do this to protect Australia and our community. How do I explain that to a little girl when she's growing up? And so I then started researching on my phone, going, okay, what resources do we have? What books do we have out there? And everything that I found was only American or the UK, and obviously very different defence services. So I thought, okay, this is not good enough. And it happened to be coming up to Father's Day. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll create a book for my little girl, and basically we'll call it My Dad's in the Australian Navy. And so what it will do is it will teach her about what her dad does when he's away, so that when she's feeling a bit alone, she can grab the book and feel connected. So that was the whole premise around it. So I created the book. It's still now their favourite, which is very sweet. And they dress up every year as Book Week with their little book. I love it. Makes me cry every single year. But that's sort of where it started. And so from that, my partner was, I think he cried. We'll put that on the podcast. I'm quite sure he cried a little bit when he saw the book.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think he did. I think there was a few tears. And he read the book and said, oh, I've got to put this on Facebook and show my friends. And I said, yeah, that's fine. It was a private Facebook page. So I thought, okay, no dramas. And so we put it on, and literally we had a flood of messages. How do I purchase these? Where did you get these from? And we were saying, what do you mean, where did you get them from? They're just, it's a resource that I made for Brad. Like, I don't know, do you want one? And they were like, yes, give them to me. So I was like, okay. So I then started just sending them out. I was like, okay, I guess I can do a run of this. And then from that, I upset the Navy spouses, and they said, the Army spouses, where's the Army books? And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about Army. Okay, got to be Army books, that's fine. And then the Raffies came out, and then it was on. So, and then the dad said, okay, well, great, we've got the dad. How about the mum versions? And I was like, okay, mum versions, all right. So it just sort of kept getting this momentum. Yeah. And then since then I've had grandmothers, uncles, aunties, like you name it, saying, where's our book, where's our book? So what we did is then created a bedtime story with tri-services to be able to encompass all those people that weren't mum or dads. And from then, we've now sold over 17,000.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're popular.
I'd love to get to that number one day. Imagine that, 17,000 houses.
That's mate, that is absolutely fantastic. It's something. So it was something that was born out of a necessity where you genuinely saw my child. So it was, my child is going to have a need for a resource to be able to understand the complexities of service life, and you simplified it in a way that was able to explain it to a child to make sure that you were able to close that gap. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It
is pretty cool.
I've got a question. Noting that we all just agreed then that the individual service lives and their experiences as a serving member or spouse are different. How did you write the My Mum's in the Army book? Like, how did
I
you
got a
write?
lot of advice, So I've got a lot of friends who are Army. So I had to learn really quickly about LHDs, and I had to learn a lot about the equipment, what they look like. I had no idea. So with all the books, I've used my community, and really they've rallied around me to do some serious consultation, which has been great.
That's awesome that they wanted to be able to contribute and share.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you've got your Navy stuff wide tight, but there's two other services out there that you also need to, so you'd have to how do you draw a C-17? How do you draw a F-18 Hornet? That sort of stuff. So good on you. That's fantastic. So much input and so much positive spirit and, leaning forward willingness from others to be able to contribute. Are they all really proud of what it's sort of looking like now as well?
Yeah, it's really nice. Like I get a lot of messages. So as I said, like the book week, I get a lot of people from all around Australia and overseas, people having their children dress up as mum or dad and using my book as book week. So they send me those, or they send me pictures of, them reading their stories. Oh, look, honestly, I have met, as I said to you earlier, many times where I cry. Just because I'm just so happy that, these resources are being used and they're helping families. So, awesome. Yeah, it's touching. You
got a pretty big upswell from the community, from the defence community. It's completely understandable why. Like there's, almost, a large majority of defence families or defence, members have partners and kids and that sort of stuff. Did you find you got the same level or any level of support, any level of excitement, input from the services themselves or any of the government agencies that were kind of, that frankly need this sort of stuff to be able to support people?
Yeah, so in South Australia in particular, Veterans SA have been instrumental in supporting me. The government down here I meet with regularly for advocacy. So we have a lot of ministers who I reach out to, and we have chats about policy change and things like that. So they've supported me, both Liberal and Labor and Independents. I can't thank them enough. On a federal level, quite frequently. So we were a finalist for 2 years now, so maybe next year I might win, for the Prime Minister's Veterans Employment Award.
Awesome.
So we've had a lot of support from government in those sort of things. We've had defence member family support distributing our colouring sheets and things like that. So the veteran wellbeing centres are particularly passionate. We're doing some really cool stuff leading up to Anzac Day with them. So we have a lot of really good collaboration. I frequently spoke to CN, our old Chief of Navy, Mike Noonan, before he transitioned out, about a lot of collaborative things. So he was always very supportive. We're looking to meet up with the new CN hopefully soon. So there's, we've been very, very supported. And even with non-government, they've been incredibly supportive of us. We won the Princess Trust Family Business of the Year award last year. So that was a moment where, again, I cried in front of the Governor-General and Julie Bishop. That was a moment. But I'm very, very surrounded by love and support. I mean, Gwen Cherney, who was a Veterans Families Commissioner Advocate, is extremely supportive. DVA Secretary Alison Frame is extremely supportive. These are really good people to know, but also it's great that they understand the significance of what I'm doing. They really understand it. And, you know, that's huge for me. That's really huge when you get that sort of validation from all different levels.
Hayley, there's not many things that can bring Labor, the Libs and independents into the one room, mate. But your books are doing that, so well done. Kudos.
It's just, I'm just loving the tool that, you know, when your partner as an adult goes away, then you'll find coping strategies to get through that. But when you're a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10-year-old and you don't have those adult coping strategies yet, the fact that there's a resource and something easy and fun and, you know, interesting to read, you're making a massive difference in people's lives, mate. It's just so good. What little story arc do you take the kids on? Let's just say my mum's in the Navy. What do they learn about their mum? Like, you're like, without giving away all your secrets, because you still want people to buy your books, right? But like, just give us a quick little summary about you know, what little Julie's going to work out about her mum is in the Navy.
So I guess my dad and my mum version books, they are about, I guess, why their work is so important, but it's sort of like more of an understanding. So, for example, one of the lines, which I personally love, is I'm proud that my dad's in the Australian Navy because he rescues sea turtles. And so, you know, because my little girl thinks that's what Brad did all the time, because he was on patrol boats for a while and he did rescue sea turtles and he rescued sharks and endangered slugs, apparently, which he's not too fond about. But these are things he did. So, you know, so they sort of rest upon those so it's real introductory, basic ones for preschoolers. The next one we've got, which is being launched in May. This is a bit of, I haven't told anyone this. So this is
it's only the three of us
just
so
the three
far.
of us having a chat, mate.
The three of us, is that we're launching our graphic novel in May. So that's going to be really, really exciting. It's about 100 pages. Oh. So it's for kids that are a bit older, so probably 6 to 9, 10-year-olds. It's going to be really, really fantastic. So we have sort of, you know, those initiatives in the works. We've also got some Defence Kids T-shirts coming out. Again, no one knows this yet, but you know it because there's just the three of us. So we've got some Defence Kids T-shirts coming out leading up to Anzac Day, which are so super cute. They're our characters behind. They've all got their own T-shirts. And Reggie, I think, is going to be the most popular. The army kid is going to be, So how cool's her name? Bianca. Get it? Wicked. Reggie and Bianca. And then you've got the tawny frog mouth. His name's Duck. Because you know how they've got nicknames there? Duck. Yeah.
Mate, these items are going to not walk off the shelves. Yeah. They're going to be grabbed off the shelf real quick. I hope you got a fair bit of a back order coming.
There's a lot. And we've already had adults reaching out saying, where can we buy them? Like, when are they going to be released? They want us to, we've had defence people. So, yeah, and even defence industry want to buy them. So
Luke's extra small. Luke is.
Yeah. Extra small.
I have to get the sleeves taken in on my shirts. We'll of course share all of your details and websites and stuff. We'll get Daniel to throw that up in the comment section for us. So, you know, if for everybody listening out there, if you do want to grab these amazing resources, of course, for your kids, whether that's a shirt or, you know, a book or whatever that looks like, just jump in the link and go from there. Mate, how have you found, in terms of the percentage of your life that this is kind of not taken up, but how much of your life do you need to dedicate this to that? And do you feel that it's a commensurate return? Like, do you realise how much of a difference you're making?
Because lawyers are 6 minutes on the clock.
6 minute increments.
Robbie's calling me. Hang on a second. Start. Hi, Robbie. How you doing?
I appreciate that you know that. It's expensive. Lawyers are expensive. Look, I think this takes.
We do know.
Yeah. I know some decent ones for you to reference.
I don't.
Look, I think it takes up a lot of my time, and it genuinely does. And I just put up a post about this on LinkedIn yesterday, is that I need to be conscious of the balance with it, because I get I've got ADHD. So basically I get so involved and invested in something, and then it's on, and then I'm like, right, let's do this. How do we implement this change? What do we do with this? How do we do this? So I get so I think I don't take that time to stop and pause and reflect on I guess, how big this is, because there's, it's just like once I get a really good outcome, fantastic. That's like I'm high-fiving and squealing. However, 2 minutes later, I'm going, right, what's the next thing that I need to be pushing? Because I'm really aware that time is limited. I'm only on this earth for so long, and I want to make sure that I have the maximum amount of impact. So for me, I don't know when that's gonna stop, right? I don't know when I'm going to stop being influential or when people stop listening. I don't know when that point happens. So I'm really aware on my limited amount of time, and so I'm trying to get as much through as I can. So as I said before, like speaking with the politicians, is that last year we worked with Veterans SA to get a defence and veteran children's tick box in all South Australian schools. So now when you do your enrolment, you've got a tick box and you can identify. That's the first that has happened in this country. So prior to that, there was nothing. There was just identification of defence children, but no veteran children. So we don't know really how many there are.
Yep.
Apart from the census, which gives us some loose guides. So, like those things are huge. They're huge for our community. Now we've got ACT jumping on board, and I think the other ones, NT are looking at it as well. But again, it's like, it's such a momentum thing. It's a big deal. But then I'm like, okay, celebrate. Right, what's next? What am I doing now? Because I need to keep going. I can't stop.
It sounds like us.
Yeah, stole the words out of them.
To be successful at Axon, you need to have ADHD.
Yeah.
And literally, like as from the strategic brains trust in the business with a couple of others, we're very much the same.
Yeah.
We're like, boom, now we've got this underway. Yep, that's amazing. Now, and then we're going to improve this process.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what makes a difference between a lot of us. A lot of the time is that we don't rest on our laurels.
Yeah.
When you've got that in continuous improvement mindset and you're on a journey, like there is no destination. Like I noticed, and you're like, you empower the kids of the Australian Defence Force to feel a certain way, et cetera, et cetera. Guess what the reason or the purpose of Axon is? We empower the defence community to secure their financial future using property. There's no end point to that. You don't get to the end to become the winner.
Yeah,
It's an infinite mindset. It's an infinite game. So, I mean, just on that point, who's going to take over from you one day when it's all said and done? Like, have you got it? Like, because I get this is not going to go away either. So, if I could give you a bit of coaching for a second there, put a succession plan in place. Axon's got a succession plan in place that if something happens to me one day, the whole thing doesn't come to a grinding halt. There's someone else who's already got the reins, in hand. They can keep them at bay for quite a while longer, don't get me wrong. But at least if something happens, then it's going to go on. So maybe there's something else for you to think about down the track.
That's a really good idea, and as a lawyer, I should have thought about that. But I appreciate you giving me legal advice on that, because it's brilliant. It's brilliant, and it's important. And while we're on legal advice, all spouses should have their wills done. Since I'm just plugging it out there,
Absolutely.
like seriously, children, so many spouses do not have it done, and they're just waiting. They're like, I'll just get it done. Oh, it's next week's problem. You might not have next week. You've got children, get it done.
You don't need it until you do.
So true.
Yeah, that's right.
So true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my last sort of 3-4 years in SOCOM, I saw way too many deaths and way too many sudden deaths and way too many families that were fucking destroyed by people not having their shit together from a will's point of view.
Yep.
There is no tomorrow. Get it done ASAP.
Well, one of the things you touched on before about about measures of success or hitting those successful points is one of the ways in which the business sort of doesn't let those slip through the gaps. Like we force ourselves to a degree to reflect on those successes. So even though we've got the infinite mindset and we're working towards making sure that we are working infinitely, there's no end game for us. Every Friday we spend an hour and we sit down and we pause as a business, and everybody goes through their weeks, and we talk about the challenges, we talk about the successes, we talk about those things, and Robbie refers to it as, putting the mortar in the bricks and solidifying that week that was for us, so we don't just let those wins slip through our fingers, because we're building on those through the year. Because you get to the end of the year and you go, holy shit, a lot happened, but I don't remember much of it.
But you start the next week standing on top of those bricks that you built the week before.
Yeah.
And up it goes.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
You can take that away too if you like.
I will. I'm writing notes as we're speaking.
It's like this might be the next book. As a veteran, my daddy knows how to stand on top of bricks every week because he reflects and he actually wants to get better all the time.
Mate, so you've got a couple of big milestones in the sands you're working towards at the moment. Have you envisaged where this goes over the next couple of years? Because I agree with Robbie. This thing's not going away.
No. No, and look, to be honest, I wouldn't allow it to anyway.
Yeah.
It's going to continue being in people's faces. But I think over the next few years, well, we're working towards a cartoon. So these characters, the graphic novel, so they will be in a cartoon. So
Great.
yeah, which will be fantastic. So, and I guess the good thing about that is that it's, you know, yes, you've got the books and you've got them as being but no matter where you are, no matter where the defence or veteran child is, they can just quickly go onto YouTube and see the cartoons. So we're working with an amazing group of producers, and they're called Cheeky Little Media. So they've already got children's content on ABC. They've got Ginger and the Veggie Sauce, and they've also got Kangaroo Beach, which are highly successful. So they're number 2 and number 3 on ABC at the moment as the most popular. We don't talk about Bluey, but
You don't need to. That's its own bloody.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's like Taylor Swift of the kids world. It's got its own economy.
It is. It is.
And
so,
good on 'em.
you know, yeah. Oh, look, they're doing well, and they're Australian, and I think they're doing great. And you know, they're creating a Bluey world. I mean, and you can't go to Bunnings now, you know, without buying merchandise. It's amazing. Like what they've done is fantastic. So, I went on Erin Molan's Sky News a little while ago, and I said, "Bluey who? We're going to be bigger." But you know, like. Probably not. Now they've got a Bluey world, but you never know. There might be a Defence Kids world.
I haven't seen the bloody owners of a Bluey stand next to the Governor General. So there you go.
That's right.
There you go.
It's a good point. I'm putting it in my notes as well for next time. Yeah, so, you know, I think the cartoon's going to be really popular. We're going to do some more books. You know, there'll be some more merchandise. So I guess the reason behind, and also with the merchandise and things, the profits and things will be going back into charity and stuff. So we've got, you know, like Legacy. We've got some other charities that we're working with as well. So the profits go back into community. So it's not just, you know, going into production of a cartoon, which will be fantastic. So everyone is benefiting by purchasing and getting involved in Defence Kids. But what I will say is, though, one of my other big agendas is bring your children to Anzac Day. So every year I always get all these spouses contacting me and saying, you know, but my child would cry. It's like, that's okay. That's okay that they cry, because that's why we're there. You know, we're there so that we can, you know, yes, we can commemorate, but the reason that people went to war and, you know, did all those things was so that families continued with this life. Bring your children. It's okay that they cry. Nobody's going to be offended. And we want to keep talking about, you know, our fallen. We want to make sure that we're continuing their legacy and commemorating them. And if we don't bring the children to these events, it will slowly fade out, and that's not what we want.
I'm loving the rate of junior attendance at Anzac Days these days. I think it's stronger than ever. To your point,
I agree.
You know, it's just fantastic to see,
and it is absolutely about the future generation. Like it's one of those things that I've always said to my mates when they go or don't want to take their kids. Exactly the same thing is that entire service is you know, obviously it is to commemorate, you know, the fallen and the current serving, but it's also to identify the future generations of Australians and why we gave that sacrifice.
And it also gives kids insights that it's okay to cry at the right time. Being vulnerable and shedding a tear and showing people that you're sad about something that you're very proud of or commemorating or whatever it's going to be, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't do it every day.
I try not to.
And it's okay if you do. It's okay if you do.
But no, I think it just it's almost like the parents might be able to frame it and go, you know, little Johnny, I don't know where little Johnny came from, but we're going to go somewhere and you're probably going to see grown men crying, and that's totally fine.
It's okay.
It's totally fine for anyone to cry at any time, if that's the body's way of, you know, processing whatever it is they're seeing, feeling, smelling, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you know, letting them know that this is the one day of the year where, from a military commemorative perspective, it's totally fine to do that.
Absolutely.
When they're 12, 13, 14, and they probably give a shit about seeing a grown man cry, they'll be like, oh, it's all right. Mum's told me this since I was 6. It's totally normal.
Yeah.
And on it being the sentiment of what Axon Day, Anzac Day is all about.
We don't have one yet, mate. We're working towards it. We don't have an Axon Day yet.
Well, we do. It's called our birthday. It's in a couple of days' time.
We're having lunch on Friday. Perfect.
There we go, Hayley. Thank you so much for joining us on Axon's Unleashed. I said in my opening comments, Luke, that this was going to be unlike any podcast that we've ever done, and it certainly is.
Absolutely, man. Can I say personally, from a veteran who has had a young family, who went through the range of challenges that I know that a whole bunch of other families are either experiencing right now, have experienced, or will experience in the future, mate. Thank you so much for seeing the gap that was, that is or was out there. But moreover, not just seeing it, but taking action and putting something in place to be able to support our kids through their defence journey.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. It's I really appreciate your time. I really do. So thank you so much.
It's all right. Let me finish with a little plug. We've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now, that when people go ahead and take care of the $347 to have their initial coaching session with us, $50 of that gets donated to a veteran charity. So tens of thousands of dollars have we donated over the last sort of 5 or 6 years. There's a little drop-down box, where there's all the sort of different defence charities there. Hayley, with your permission, live on a podcast, which is not live, but people are going to listen to it live when they get to it, I'm going to make sure that Defence Kidz is on the little drop-down box there to make sure that people that are wanting to have a coaching session with us, if they feel as if it's a high need for them, that Axon can donate $50 on their behalf, then I look forward to that very small contribution coming your way to try and improve the service that you deliver to so many others over many years to come.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We're in the process of creating our charity literally right now. So great timing.
Awesome.
Great timing. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And the good news is that my marketing department and my general manager are now listening to this for the first time and now realise that we're just about to do another thing.
Hayley, he does this all the time, trust me.
It's all right. When I want to change something, I don't have to do a bloody 10-page document to some bullshit fucking general. I am the general. Like, guess what? Make a decision. Get it done. Great to see you, Hayley.
Love it.
Have a
Thanks,
great day.
Hayley.
See you soon. Well done, Luke.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
See you later, mate.